It's time to do my wrap up. Hey, what's up? I'm Allie and welcome back to my channel. So remember that massive TBR that I posted? Well, it was like 30 books long or maybe more than that. And I ended up reading 17 things in October, so I feel like I still did pretty good. So this is my wrap up. For your convenience, there are going to be timestamps listed down below for all the titles that I read in October, so if there's anything that you are interested in hearing my thoughts and feelings about, that will be down below. You can just jump to whatever it is that you're interested in. The first thing that I read for the month was A Dowry of Blood, which is stunning, beautiful, amazing. Oh my god! But this is a kind of Dracula retelling, but this is from one of the brides of Dracula, and it is about how basically she is on the verge of death and Dracula comes along and turns her into a vampire, and how that ultimately saves her life, but also it's a complicated relationship. We know at the beginning of this is kind of like her writing letters. This is a little bit like her diary. We know at the beginning of this that she has killed him, but we don't know why, and we don't know what has happened, especially because she just loves him so much. But this is a great depiction into an incredibly toxic relationship, in one that is manipulative, small ways that just really build up over time, and different types of friendships and relationships that happen along the way. But it is fantastic. I saw the hype. It's worth the hype. It was so good. I flew through this. I gave it a 5 out of 5 stars. Again, beautifully written. I love the concept. I wanted so much more. I needed more. I needed more. I needed more. I need to know what happened after the end of these events. I need to know what happened. So good. Then we have, and I realized I said this wrong in my vlog. I did a vlog reading Jordaline's recommendations, and she had recommended Living Room Matsunaga-san, and I'm probably saying that wrong. I didn't realize that this was part of the title. So I've just been calling it Living Room. This is volume 1. This is a little bit of a gay age gap romance, in that this like high school senior, she moves into a bit of a boarding house and ends up really connecting with the grumpiest member in the boarding house, and he is like 7 or 8 years her senior, or like 10 years her senior, or something like that. But it is, if you know that going into it, you know, you can be aware of what is happening, but I do think that overall this is a pretty cute story. It's pretty simple, and their interactions are really adorable. And of course, he's just grumpy and she's just sunshine and things like that. Like, it's cute. I think it wouldn't have bothered me so much with the age gap. I could have pretended like otherwise if it really bothered me that much. But it's the fact that she keeps talking about how much she doesn't understand about being an adult and how young she is. So if it wouldn't have kept talking about how young she was, I don't think I would have really noticed. But because she kept talking about it, I was just like, what? Why? I did end up ordering the next volume to see if I'm really going to enjoy it, and I ended up giving this 4 stars. Just the main complaint was that, you know, I didn't need to keep hearing about how young she was. That would have been annoying in any case. Then we have Camp Slaughter, another one of Jordaline's recommendations, and this is a true slasher book full of blood, guts, and gore, and I did talk more about my feelings and reactions in that vlog. But this is about a group of young adults who get together. They go to party out in the middle of the woods in Pennsylvania in this cabin, and it just so happens that a cannibal lives in those woods. And we follow not only the point of view of several of the people kind of going on this, we also follow a group that are doing like YouTube videos investigating this, and we also follow the cannibal from his point of view. And I will say there was some really interesting backstory that I wanted so much more from. We just did not get enough of the backstory for me, especially because I believe that there's a part of this that plays into Mexican culture about seeing ghosts and interacting with ghosts, and I wanted more of that. We get a glimpse of it and then it's like gone. There is going to be a sequel, so I do have hopes that the sequel will touch more on that. But it was interesting to see a little bit of the backstory, and I will say this is just, I mean, it is full on suspense. You don't really get to know the characters, but you don't need to because, like, they're gonna die, you know? So I do think if we would have gotten to know them, the deaths would have been a little more impactful, but we're not here for that, you know? We're here for the blood, guts, and the gore, and that's what we get. We get a lot of it in some really interesting ways of killing people. So there is that. You get it, it delivered on what it said it was going to do. So there's that. I do want to give a warning that there is ace phobia in this. It is mentioned very briefly. It's just a comment that a character makes, but it did catch me a little off guard. So just a fair warning that there is a line of ace phobia in this. Really, really enjoyed that. I ended up giving it 4 stars, and I will probably read the next one. I think the next one is like Halloween Slaughter or something like that. Then to break it up a little bit, I did read Fangs. This is a graphic novel, and this is about a vampire who falls in love with a werewolf. This is just so damn cute. It is so damn cute. It's not like a complicated story. It's just like little snippets of their lives together and the different issues that they have, and it is just so damn cute. And she's like grumpy. He's obviously like the golden retriever boyfriend, but it is just so darn adorable. I really, really enjoyed this. It was a really quick read. I ended up giving this a 4.5. I could see myself like going back and just revisiting this every year because it was such a quick read and because it's just so cute and it's kind of like punny. It's like a punny story. Then I had to know if it was worth the hype. I had to know. I read The Ex-Hex. And this is about a young witch. She lives in like this magical town, and this guy, she has like this whirlwind romance, and then the guy ends up, she finds out that he's actually like engaged. Oops. And so she hexes him, but she figures it probably doesn't matter, you know, it's whatever. So it's years down the line, and he has to come back into town because his family like runs this town. He has to come back into town and like recharge these ley lines. But then they realize when he gets back into town that maybe her hex is still working, and it's working at full force, and it is causing chaos on the whole town. And so they have to work together naturally in order to fix these curses, and, you know, one thing leads to the next. So this was really cute. It was fun. You know, it was just a good time. It was so silly at times. It wasn't trying to be a really serious book, obviously. Like, we're talking about some really silly curses that are happening. I will say that, you know, we don't really get a buildup of the romance because we are already told, you know, that these characters have chemistry. And one of my favorite things about romances is the buildup. I love a good buildup, and this just didn't have it. It's like immediately they're like, oh my god, we're still attracted to each other. But I will say, the beginning is so funny because they, like, hate each other. They hate each other. And so that is pretty silly in the moments of that. And I thought it was witty at times. It was fun. It wasn't, like, the most amazing thing I ever read, to be honest. If you're looking for something that is really steamy, this doesn't have it. It's lacking in those details. So if you're looking for that, this isn't it. It's fine. I just, you know, want to warn, a lot of people keep, you know, saying it's a romance, and I know some people look for that. Not so much in this. This is just definitely about their silly hijinks and just reconnecting. And I think I ended up giving this a 4 stars. Again, it wasn't like the best thing ever, but it was a really good time. I read it in one sitting because I wanted to be in this world. It's like if Halloween Town became an adult version in a Hallmark movie. So, you know, it was adorable. This is actually a series that I started, and I read the first 3 volumes. They are on manga, and that is Blood on the Tracks. I read 1, 2, and 3, mostly because I did not know what the fuck was happening in 1, and so I had to keep reading. So this is basically about just a family. We're following like a really simple family, and then the mother starts acting kind of weird, but only the son really notices it, and you get the progression of this kind of weird abuse that's kind of happening, and we still just like don't know what's happening with the mother. There's obviously something going on there, and everyone around them might be in danger. Their normal average life has become incredibly sinister out of nowhere. This is a super quick read because there's not honestly a lot of dialogue that is happening with this. It is a lot of picture format happening. I know Jordaline recommended this to me because it is a very easy manga to start with, and I agree. It was really easy to follow. I thought it was a great starting point for me, and I am still incredibly intrigued by what the hell is happening. Give the first one a 3.5 just because I just felt like it was lacking a little bit in the story, and I just wanted a little bit more from the story. I just needed more. It was enough to keep me going. So then I read the next two, but these two are both a 3 just because it isn't giving me enough to want to really continue. Like, I'm not getting enough answers for the amount of effort that I'm putting into this. So the first one is a 3.5, but the other ones are just a 3. Not like a bad story. I'm still like intrigued by the concept of it. I do just think it's taking way too long to get to something that I genuinely care about. And also, I do think it is a little bit of the progression of madness that is happening, not just with the mother, but also the son at this point, because, you know, he's put in a lot of really complicated situations, and there's some weird shit. There's some weird shit happening for sure. So, yeah. I also read Suffer the Children, and this is like an apocalyptic vampire story. Basically, all the children in the world die. They die. And then a few days later, after most of them have been buried, they come back to life. In order to keep them alive, they need blood. They become vampires, essentially. So we follow 3 different families, and what was absolutely ingenious about this is that we follow the parents as they lose these children. We watch them die, essentially. And that was absolutely fantastic storytelling because it makes the rest of the story that much more impactful, and it makes it make sense. Because now we know these parents have gone through the loss of their children. They're not going to do it again. They're going to do everything in their power, now that they understand that loss, to keep these kids alive. Which is why it becomes fucking scary. Because they gotta do some awful shit to keep their kids alive, because you can only lose so much blood yourself, and then you gotta start looking elsewhere. But the problem is, it's all children. It's not just yours. It's everyone now. This was a fantastic story. This was so incredibly original. I thought the storytelling was brilliant. The way that it was set up was ingenious. I will say my only complaint, even though it works for this, is that it was just slower paced than I personally enjoy. It really works for the story because we are following like the slow descent into absolute chaos, essentially. It's like a slow build up and then it all hits at once kind of deal. And we are following that, and we get to see a lot of different parts of society, the really gritty, dark parts of society, but we also get to see like the happy parts of society during this. So this is just like a mess all around. There is a really graphic scene that happens, I believe, in the mall later on, and I was just like, oh my god. But I could see it happening. I mean, this shit happens at Black Friday every year. So it was very realistic, and it was terrifying in that I could see this shit happening if this were to happen. So this was just a really fascinating story, and I really enjoyed it. I gave it a 4.5. Great new twist on the vampire. Then again, because I was reading a lot of dark stuff, I decided to give a little middle grade graphic novel a try, and that was Mel the Chosen. This was so incredibly cute. I mean, look at this. I need you to see this artwork. This artwork. Oh, it's so cute. Oh my god. So this is about a girl who, she wants to be an adult. She wants to make her own decisions because she's sick of her parents calling all the shots. So what happens is this magical world appears to her, and basically she is told that she can have a wish, and this wizard will grant her a wish, but she's been warned by everyone in this world that the wish comes, you know, it comes with some bad stuff with it. Like, there's obviously what is that? There's a price to pay. I'm like, what the hell is that called? There's a price to pay. So we are hunting down, because she's like, well, I'm going to make this right, because I don't think it's right that all of you you know, got this wish and all these terrible things happened to you. So she's kind of going through this world and righting these wrongs as she is learning more about it, and she is going to hunt down the big bad guy. And of course she might get her wish in the end, but at what cost? So this was so incredibly cute. I love the artwork in this. It was a really fun adventure. It felt very reminiscent of like Lord of the Rings, kind of Winnie the Pooh-ish at times, Alice in Wonderland, like all those like just falling into like a magical mystical world and all the good adventures that come with it. I ended up giving this a 4 stars. Again, it was so incredibly enjoyable. I hope that there are more within this at some point because I would love to read more about this world. It was just so silly. Then I had an incredibly long flight, 17 hours of travel, and so I read a lot of things during that time, one of which was Things Have Gotten Worse Since We Last Spoke, and I don't know what I was expecting, but it wasn't anything that happened in this. Holy shit. I just like, you know, this was the only time I think I've really wanted to sit down with an author and be like, what the fuck? You know, like what? Why? This is just a hot mess. So this is basically these 2 women meet on this LGBTQ very friendly site, and they connect over this like a potato peeler or apple peeler or some sort of peeler, and they end up, you know, talking back and forth about this, and they're like really articulate storytellers to each other in these emails, and then they end up entering a like master servant situation. Shit is fucking wild. And the whole time I was reading this, I'm like, what the hell am I, like, what is going on? I don't know how to talk about this. I genuinely do not know how to talk about this. So there's a stomachache involved, and then I ended up with a really bad stomachache that night, and I was like terrified. Terrified. Absolutely terrified. But this is just, it's so fucking weird. That's all I can say. And I honestly don't think it worked. I think it was going for such a big shock factor because these characters at the beginning are so incredibly articulate and they seem incredibly smart, and they've just really thought out the things that they're going to say to each other. And then like I feel like just has a total personality change, and just, I know that there was like a reason, but I don't think the reasoning was good enough for how completely different this person became. And I mean, it might have to say something about like how desperate we can be for the things that we need in life, but I don't know about this. I just don't know about this. I gave this a 3.5 because I couldn't stop reading it. I could not turn away. And I do feel like the overall idea is compelling. But I do think that this got lost on just trying to be gross and nasty. I literally do not know how to talk about this book. I've tried to multiple times. Like, I tried to write a whole, like, response to this, and it was just so incredibly disturbing on multiple levels. Then we have A Cold Moon Over Babylon, and this is about a young girl who is murdered in a small southern town, and then her murderer gets to go on the loose because he is a very famous rich boy in their town and basically gets to run the town. And so he murders her and gets away with it. But she isn't going to let that happen, and this is kind of about her haunting essentially the town, but mostly him. But there is a lot of build up to that point of it happening. We know immediately that this has happened. It happens right off the bat, and it is terrifying. And then we spend a good chunk of this book looking for her. Now, we as the reader already know where she's at, so I did find that part a little frustrating because I felt like we had backtracked too much, and it was kind of frustrating to spend that long with these characters that are like, oh my god, where is she? Where is she? I'm like, I get it, that is the appropriate response, but like, I don't want to read about it that much, you know? So this book is incredibly slow-paced, in my opinion. There is a plot twist that happens halfway through, and it was fantastic because I so was not expecting it at all. And then it's another little bit more waiting, and then we finally get into the chaos of it all, and the chaos of it all is absolutely amazing. I will say this has some of the most disturbing scenes I have ever read, some absolutely terrifying scenes. This gets bloody and gory. It becomes a bit of a slasher, I will say, and it is just insane. I do think that it has a lot to say about like money and power and how that plays, and also men and their power over women, and it has a lot to say about small southern towns and how rumors really fuck shit up sometimes. But this is, it was good. It just wasn't, I think, what I was personally looking for. I don't know what I was expecting, but this, I thought, was just so incredibly slow paced. I was like dragging through it. I just wanted it to be done. I thought there was a lot that could have been cut out. It was just focusing way too much on the dramatics of a small town, in my opinion. This is, though, from the 80s. And the 80s loved their details. They loved details in horror. They loved a slow burn. So this is an incredibly well done 80s horror. It's just not something that I personally want. I think I look more for a thriller within my horror books, so this wasn't my cup of tea. However, I can appreciate it for what it is, and I really like the story concept. I like a lot of the gory details that were put into this. I think some of these scenes were so incredibly vivid and disturbing, and I enjoyed those parts about this. I felt like I could really appreciate the horror genre in this moment, and I'm giving it a 3 stars. Again, I can appreciate a lot of what it had done, but it just wasn't something that ended up being for me. I think that this could be a lot of people's shit, just not mine. Then we have The Circle, and this is like a short novella type thing, and this another one that I'm not too sure I know exactly how to describe, but this is in like 3 different segments, and it takes place in the same neighborhood. And the very first story in this, they're all connected, you know, they connect in some way. The first story, I will say, feels a lot more disjointed than the 2 ones after that. The 2 after that are very obviously connected. But the first one, I was just like, what? But it's basically all this weird shit that happens to these people in this neighborhood. And the first one is about this boy that shows up to this woman's house and just starts shitting like rubies and diamonds and stuff. That's like literally the story. It's just shitting jewels everywhere. So I'm just like, okay. So then we get into the next story, and it is about these young boys who want to know what it's like to eat out a woman. To the witch to wish for these things. There's these rumors that there's a witch, and there's like an altar that you can put a wish for at this altar, and then something happens and it starts slaughtering people in the neighborhood when they wish for this stuff. So there's a cost to the wish, you know? Yes, I know. Book was like, again, just trying to be gross for the sake of being gross. And then there is an over-sexualized part of the story as well that I was just like, why? Why? I really, really didn't enjoy this. I was hoping that at some point something would get better. I was really into the witch aspect. I love when we get the same neighborhood experiencing weird shit. I love small neighborhood stories. This wasn't it. This was just like, at that point I just finished it because it was so short that I was just like, might as well see what else is in play. And this just really let me down. There was just no good conclusion to this. I just felt like everything was just like so out there for the sake of being out there. So I did end up giving this a 2.5. Like, it was intriguing enough, but like, no. I had 4 5-star reads in a row. 4 5-star reads in a row. Friends, The Risk. This is a bit of a thriller, erotic type story. This is about a female serial killer who's killing men based on something that happened to her. We don't get the actual reason, but sexual assault is hinted at, obviously. So she is hunting down these men and killing these men, and then she ends up dating the FBI agent who is hunting for her. Yeah. Good shit. Good shit. This was great. It has everything that I am really looking for. It's got some steamy scenes. Great. Witty characters. Great. They got the banter. Good. We got a strong female character. Yes. She's doing revenge. Love it. Got some gory details. Great. Fantastic. This was everything I needed. It was short. I love the chemistry between these characters. It was just the right amount of sprinkle of things. Is it a masterpiece of all time? No, but it was fantastic. I flew through this. I couldn't stop reading it. I'm so excited to read the rest of the series. The covers are unfortunate. They're incredibly unfortunate covers. Mindfuck is also not like the best series name ever. I can't recommend it to people at the library. This is the first one. It's the first in the Mindfuck series. I gave this a 5 out of 5 stars. Loved it. Loved it. Great quick read. Perfect for what I was looking for. Had a lot of elements that I really enjoyed. Then Nothing But Blackened Teeth. This is a ghost story, and this is about a group of young people who go to like this mansion and for a wedding, and then they find out that the previous brides have been buried alive within the house, and the house is asking for something. So this was funny. I wasn't expecting this to kind of make fun of itself at times, but it also mixes in some knowledge of like horror and slasher films. And so their group is kind of panicking as things start to happen, and they're like, but this is what happens in the movie, so this is what we need to do. And I love that. I love that. I love that. But this was so incredibly creepy at times. I loved the writing. It was atmospheric. It was really quick paced. I loved that there was just enough information about the characters that we got a sense of their personality, but it wasn't like too much that it bogged down the story. I just really enjoyed this. It was just a really good time. It was written beautifully. That's it. 5 out of 5 stars. I don't think I've stopped talking about it since I read it. I love when my camera dies when I'm right in the middle of telling you about exciting shit. You know? How dare it? Next one took me so far by surprise. That is The Violent Season. It takes place in a small town, and basically every November, everyone seems to just be consumed by this need for just violence. We follow this girl. Her mother was killed in their home the previous year, and it's kind of how she has dealt with that since then. It is a year later. We are coming out, you know, thinking about how all these things have happened and how this has affected her. She is depressed, she smokes, and she drinks, and she just does whatever. She's also incredibly in love with her best friend, and he like wants nothing to do with her, but he doesn't seem that way. The things that he does are very misleading, and yeah. I will say I thought this was going to be like a mystery that was like had some sort of paranormal aspect to it, and this is not what this story is about at all. This story really snuck up on me in what it was actually about, and this is just about mental illness and depression and how that can really manifest itself in you and change your life and change how you look at things, and also just like the really unsettling things that we will put up with because we think that that's what we deserve. So this also deals with an abusive relationship that is very manipulative, and it was incredibly heart-wrenching to read at times. I feel like this book hit really close to home in a lot of aspects when it comes to the feelings that are described in this as well. And then it is about her like meeting a character who kind of is making her see some of these things, how she has been treated poorly and how she can be treated better, and kind of trying to figure out the mystery of this town. And This book is up there in one of the most impactful books that I personally have read. This isn't going to be for everyone. There are going to be people that read this and think that it is incredibly cheesy. There's going to be people that read this and think that it's not well written. There's going to be people that are like, this is not what this book promised. But to me, this book just hit me so hard in the feels and was so incredibly unexpected for how hard this hit that I can't like not be obsessed with this. This is up there for me with The Way I Used to Be and like books that just have like blown my mind. though I was just getting a fun mystery. And no, I was not. I had to sit. I had to have like a lie down after I read this because it just hit. I don't know what it's, 5 out of 5 stars. Again, not everyone is going to feel that way. I think that I read this in a very particular moment and had experiences that really felt like this. And so this was just much more impactful than I feel like I was just not ready. I was not ready. I was not ready. So anyway, if you can get your hands on it, it is a fairly short read, and if you were in the right mindset, I would say give this a try because it was well worth it, the quick paced read that it was. And even though there is a plot twist, I kind of saw it coming, but like at that point, you just are like so absorbed into the story that it doesn't matter that you might know or not. And then after a year of starting it, I finished Storm of Locusts. This is the sequel to Trail of Lightning. Trail of Lightning is a Navajo-inspired mythology world, and this is apocalyptic. Basically, the big wave has happened. All these things have happened. And so we are following Maggie, who is a monster slayer, and she is so kick-ass. She is the best. I am obsessed, and basically she teams up with a medicine man, and they have to go and hunt of, kind of these, they're on different missions, but essentially there are these, in the first one there are these, like, man-made monsters that are attacking people, and so they have to go find out who's making the monsters, and then kill them. And there's a lot of other things along the way. They interact with a lot of gods and whatnot, and it's fantastic. Second one, just as fantastic. A lot of things happen in the first one, and we're obviously following those events, but there is this man calling himself the White Locust. And so he has basically created this cult, and so we have to hunt him down and do something about it. And there's a lot of other things involved with it, and I just love this story so much. I never know what to expect from this because it takes place in all these like random places. It's like nature at times, and the next thing you know, we're like in a casino. And then the next thing we know, we're like driving out in the middle of the desert on motorcycles. So like I never know what to expect from this, and it's fantastic. 5 out of 5 stars. I think the world building is so incredibly fantastic. I love these characters. I just really enjoy the story. I think everyone is the appropriate amount of hard ass and soft-heartedness enough to connect with, and I love the gods. I just love this world so much. Just because it took me that long to read it doesn't take anything away from it. It's still a 5 out of 5 stars. I just I don't want it to be done because I don't know when the next one's coming out or if we're even getting one at this point. Feels like I'm gonna wait forever. Oh my god, and then we're on to the very last thing. The very last thing is Horrorstor. This has been on my TBR. I think I've put this on my TBR for the past like 5 years for October. And this year I was like, I gotta fucking do it. You know, I gotta fucking do it. This is a horror story, a paranormal story that takes place basically in a store that is like IKEA. And I love the like catalog looking aspect. I thought this was going to be a much quicker read than it was because I thought it was basically told through like a catalog. It's not. The catalog are just the chapter headers, and I did not realize this, you know. So that was my bad. I don't know why I assumed it was like kind of semi-graphic novel. Don't know. I don't know why I thought I was lured into that. So we follow a woman who's been working at like this IKEA store, and she's like, whatever, she doesn't care. And basically some weird things have been happening in the store, and the manager is like, I need you to stay after with me. I will like give you a bonus for you to stay. So she stays along with another woman, and they are going to wait to see if someone like breaks in and see what has been going on in the store after hours. However, they run into 2 other employees there who are like paranormal hunting because they think that there are ghosts there. And shit hits the fan. Like quite literally. There is shit in this story. Just a warning. So I don't know what I was expecting. It wasn't this. I mean, I love Grady Hendrix's writing. This was just like so unexpected, I guess. It's a ghost story, essentially, but like some of the scenes in this were so disturbing. Grady Hendrix has this talent for writing these incredibly like mundane, yet extremely disturbing type scenes. So there are some scenes in this that I was like, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god. But then there were some scenes where I'm like, I don't know, I'm lost. Like, I am genuinely lost. I don't know what's happening. And I don't know how to follow this. There were parts that I had to like re-listen to because I'm like, I don't really understand, you know? What are you saying here? So this one was a little confusing. It felt a little disjointed at times. I also didn't care that much about the characters. I got them, like I understood their character types, but I just didn't really care that much, to be honest. So when things happened, I was just like, okay. I kind of would forget about them. Like we'd be halfway through the story and I'm like, oh yeah, that was a character that we were like kind of following, wasn't it? I did really enjoy how the story doesn't just end after the fact and actually deals with a little bit of the aftermath of what happened and how it affected some of the characters that were involved. So I really enjoyed that. I liked that aspect of it. I think this was just underwhelming. I think after hearing so much hype about this over the years, that it was just kind of like whatever at this point. And even though the writing was fantastic, I think at the end of the day it's going to be a 3 stars because I kind of just keep forgetting about it. Kind of just forgot most of the details already because it just was so whatever to me at that point. So I think I have an hour of footage to sort through with this. So let me know if you've read any of these things and how you have felt, if you felt differently about these, if you felt the same, let me know. I'm always interested to hear your thoughts on the things that I have read. Hope you have liked this video. Don't forget to subscribe to see future videos from me. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Bye! Okay, I can take some of these back to the library now. Stop accruing fines on them.